We're at Studio Captions and Advertising here at Bill Mcafee with AirServe
Of East Valley.
of East Valley, and he also has a duct cleaning business. Came to kind of get into your story, your brand, who you are, where you're from, and kind of how you got into the business or how you became an entrepreneur.
Okay.
So if you want to let the viewers know, who you are, where you came from.
Okay. Um, I started my business 28 years ago. I learned my trade in Colorado. I actually just got out of the aerospace. I was in the Marine Corps for 7 years, got out, went to school to learn mainframe computers, and got a job in the aerospace industry.
Are you from Colorado?
No. I was born in Birmingham, Alabama, grew up in Chicago, and from the time I joined the Marine Corps in 1980, I've been all over the place. I haven't stayed in any place longer than probably 5 years, and this is the first place I've lived the longest. I've been here 28 years.
You were 18 when you joined the Marines?
19.
19 years old.
Yeah.
And they sent you.
Sent me all over. I went to boot camp in San Diego, trained out in 29 Palms, and then went overseas to Philippines, Korea, lived in Japan for 3 years, came back, lived in North Carolina for a couple of years, then got stationed out in Camp Pendleton, California. Stayed there for a while and did a bunch of what we called floats, where we took 6 month cruises all over the world, wherever they needed us at the time. They're called MOUs. So did that until I got out in 1988.
In 88, you stayed in California after that?
I did. I stayed there, went to a trade school of computers for computer mainframe, realized I didn't need to do that. But you have to remember, 88, computers, people
Brand
didn't
new.
have laptops, so I did find out, though, while I worked for Rockwell International for 3 years, that mainframes were going away. And, everything, that industry was moving so fast. I'm smart enough to know when I'm good at something and smart enough to know when I'm not, really don't like it. But since I went to school for it, I figured I'd get my money's worth out of it. I went to some more schools through Rockwell, just business courses and some more computer courses. Said, nah, I don't like this. I had no interest to get better at it, so I knew it was time to change careers.
Is that when you were already in aerospace, or you started gravitating towards aerospace a bit?
No, I was in the aerospace industry. That was my first job in the mainframe computers. Worked on the Cray computer and other stuff. And 3 years at Rockwell, and then I moved to Colorado.
So you're in California getting out the Marines, start doing the aerospace with Rockwell, moved to Colorado, and are you doing a career change at this time, or are you?
Yeah, I went back. I hadn't seen my family in probably 10 years, and they had all moved to Colorado. So my mom was getting older. I went back to help her out and try to figure out what direction I really wanted to go, because I didn't feel I had a good direction. And I actually bartended for a while. And then my buddy out here in Arizona had an appliance business, and he was just learning how to do air conditioning. And he was pushing me to start a business with him. And I'm like, nah, I did not see myself moving to Arizona. And so, but he did pique my interest in air conditioning. And there was a school I saw every day when I was going into work, because I had quit the bartending after a year, because that's no career either. And it was fun. I was, 33, so I was still young.
Yeah.
And I figured, well, might as well have some fun before I get serious. And I got a job with Ross Perot's company called EDS. It's a big computer company that data processing plants. He had all over the place, and they had one up in Boulder, Colorado. So I got a job back in that industry. And again, I'm like, what am I doing here?
This is your buddy already told you about starting the
He's already
business?
told me about the air conditioning. So he perked an interest in me. He got married. I came out here for his wedding, and he kept pushing some more and more. And I had met my wife then during this period of time. We weren't married yet. We were just dating. And my wife's a go-getter. She just moved from Belize. She started a business in Belize, a bar. She owned a bar and a rafting and adventure company in Belize. She grew up in Colorado. That's why she was back there. And her son and everything was back there, and she was going through a divorce. And she was a type of, you got to try things in life. Don't be scared. What's the worst that's going to happen? You're going to learn from it. So we talked about it. I went over to the trade school to figure out, well, let's see if this is something I can do and I like to do. In the class, the tour that I took, I'm like, I could do this stuff. It might be all right. And I wasn't scared to fix things. Didn't like sitting around. I didn't like being in the offices. Didn't like sitting in front of a computer. Didn't like any of that. And this was going to definitely take me out of that, because now it put me in front of people, put me moving around constantly. And so I went to school. The school was a year long, but it wound up being about 16 months for me, because the first 6 months I stayed working for EDS. And what I did was I shifted to their second shift, and I go to school during the day and then work in the evenings, right? Well, that computer data center was only like a skeleton crew at night. So I had a whole run of this whole big, huge computer center, and we had to process tapes and do all these your regular duties that you do. If something files up, you have to put in some commands, try to unfile it.
When were you sleeping? You're working at nights in school?
I'd sleep from 12 to 7.
Okay. So really no time for nothing else?
Just work in school.
Yeah.
And I'd done that before. Did it in the Marine Corps, did it when, I'm the type of person, if this is what I have to do and I put my mind to it, then I just block everything else out.
You got that from the Marines, like that type of mentality?
I did.
Or did you always kind of have something like that? Or
they brought it out. I didn't know. I was young. I know I didn't want to go to college. I know I didn't like to live in my house. I know I needed to do something, and I was going to always try something. All right. I wasn't scared to do things. I loved adventure. I hitchhiked across the United States when I was 18, in the 80s, in the 70s. So it was, I'm not scared to do that stuff.
Yeah, were you in contact with your buddy during school?
Nope.
He didn't even know.
Well, he told me, he goes, Bill, you don't need to go to school. I'll teach you what you need here. And I said, Neil, my buddy was Neil. I've known him since we were in 7th grade. And I said, Neil, if I'm going to learn this career, I'm going to learn it. I don't want to depend on anybody. Well, also now this was 35. All right, I've been in Colorado a couple of years now. So I'm a little bit older. An average guy getting in my career is in their 20s. All right. And so when I went to the school, all I was concerned about was the academic of it. Can I learn from this? Can I take this to the next level for me? And they all asked me, when the counselors and all that, they go, okay, we can get you a job. I said, no, I'm going to start my own business when I get out. And they all looked at me and chuckled. We've heard that a lot. And I understood that. I appreciate where they were coming from, but they didn't know me. So when I got into school, I hit it hard. So my first 6, 7 months of school, I was on the dean's list, because I'd go to school from about 7:30 in the morning till 3 in the afternoon. And then I'd get done. I didn't have to be at my second shift until 5:30, 6 o'clock, which was only 20 minutes away from my school. So I'd stay at school and I'd study and try all the new labs that we just learned that day or something,
to take it all in, take the information in. Yeah, like try it out right after you learn it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it seemed to do good. So when I'd get to work at night, like I said, we were on a skeleton crew, and I made my own cue cards, my own flash cards and everything. We had a bank of about 100 drives, and we have to clean up these drives, new tapes, blank out tapes, probably about 200 or 300 of them a night. No big deal. So it would take a few hours to do it. I'd put these cards up there and tape them up on all these banks and all that. And all my co-workers were, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm learning how to do air conditioning."
Yeah.
And so I go through all that, and then what I got right, I put that in the pile of right, put the pile of wrong, and then by the end of the night, everything that was in that wrong pile needed to be in that right pile. If not, do it again. So I was always prepared the next day for a test because we take tests every 2 or 3 days. Well, I was also smart enough to know that's the academia of it. But really, the HVAC side is touching and feeling, taking that component apart, understanding how it works, putting it back together. Why did it break in the first place? And I had 2 teachers. One gentleman had about 30 years experience. The other one probably about the same. But he wanted you to learn it. He didn't want to give you the answers. So he'd make you learn it. Well, he liked me enough where he would say, "Hey, do you want to work for me on the weekends? I have a business that I do on the side." And so we did everything from water heaters to boilers to new air conditioners. And I'd have to learn how to work the sheet metal and run the lines and all that I've never done before.
This was for all students, just for you because he's seen how.
He picked me and another guy. And he liked our work ethics. So he says, "Yeah, as long as you can work for me, I'll give you some jobs."
This is for the year and a half while you're in school learning from.
Yeah, but I also knew that wasn't enough. So the school has a night shift and a day shift. And if I went to the night shift, I waited until I was at that, there's a breaking point. And at that breaking point, you either going to continue on during the day or you can change and go to night school. Well, I knew if I would go to night school, I could find a job with a guy and I can do this during the day and then go to school at night. So what happened was I did find a gentleman, we call him One Man Band. He was a second generation HVAC owner. It was just him, and he'd go out and sell the jobs and we'd install them. Well, he was very smart. He was younger than I was. He was actually 2 years younger than I was, because at that time I'm 35, he was about 33. But he was a little burnt out. You could tell that he wasn't taking things seriously anymore, but he was making enough money. And he was the type of guy, he would show you once. He goes, "Do you understand?" I said, "Yeah, okay, good, do it." And then if he didn't do it right, he didn't get on your case. He'd say, "Well, go do it right now." So he'd make you do it right. Well, every job I did had to be inspected by the city. So the city would be my teacher. If I didn't do it right, I got hit on it and it didn't pass inspection, and the homeowner, we didn't get paid. So I wanted to make sure. It was a big pride in me not to get dinged on any of these little things. And sometimes they ding me on really stupid things. I learned how inspectors thought. I learned how to read inspection codes that I didn't know how, because I'm like, "Well, what are you talking about? Show me that. I don't understand that." And they'd show me, "Well, see how this code reads out?" "Oh, okay." So I'm learning at the same time. That teacher, he still would ask me on the weekends, "Do you want to work?" "Yeah, sure." So I kept working for him on weekends and working for the other guy during the day. While I'd go to school at night, I'd get done about 9:30, 10 o'clock at night, and that's why the school at night was longer, because it was longer in months than it was in hours. So they only taught you 4 hours a night instead of 6 hours. So that's why I needed to go a little bit longer. Well, I was also, now my owner, that he was, "All right, we got a service call. You got to go out on it."
You're your own now? Now you're going out on your own?
No, I wasn't on my own. I was working for him. And I had the van, and I'd go out on service calls,
But by yourself though?
by
Yeah.
myself. And I'd call him up for guidance. What am I looking for? How am I doing this? And if I couldn't understand it, I couldn't get a hold of him because he'd be gone. He did air rescue. And so he'd be out on saving somebody up in the mountains, and I couldn't get a hold of him. And I'm like, okay. And I'd write down everything that I couldn't figure out. And I'd go to school. And my teacher, this teacher he was a more practical guy. He was old school. And I would sit him down. I said, this is what I came across. I need to learn to fix this. He goes, yeah, this is what your problem is. You're either going to have this problem or this problem. This is how you solve that. And if that's the problem, you need to get them heat for the night. You can do this and bypass this and all that so you can get the part in the morning. I'm like, oh, okay.
So between 34 and 36, you're basically honing in your craft, working with this guy,
Yes.
this owner, that teacher, going to school, and just using all of that information and knowledge to kind of just hone your craft in.
Yep.
Yeah. How long are you there like after you graduate?
I was about 9 months.
Yeah. There after graduation?
Because
Are you still working with the teacher and the owner? Are you still working with the same people after school?
no, because now I've graduated. And now that other teacher, yes, I was still working with him doing stuff. But the other teacher I couldn't get involved with because he was teaching. But they always needed old equipment. So I'd take all this old equipment I'd take out of these houses and I'd bring him into school. And he loved that. And I kept doing that for him because he needed some real stuff to work on so he could really show the guys how to do it. And I'd hang around a little bit and stuff like that. And we'd talk and I tried to just pick up stuff and then the stuff I didn't get in school and he was going back over it with the students, I'd pay attention again and stuff. And now these guys see me as an older guy out of school thinking, oh, we can ask him questions and stuff like that. So that gave me some self-confidence.
Yeah, they say once you can teach somebody what you know, that's when you really know it. So,
Right.
Yeah.
So I was trying to do that. And my boss, Ted, I said, Ted, I'm going to be leaving pretty soon and you need to find someone to replace me. You're not going to go anywhere, blah, blah, blah. And I said, no, Ted, I told you when I hired on that once I graduate from school, I was probably moving down to Arizona to start a business. Yeah, sure. And like everybody else. And I just kept learning. Then friends were asking me to help them fix their stuff. And so I would do it really cheap for them because I wanted to learn at the same time. And yeah, sometimes it took me 3 tries instead of 1, but I'd keep working at it until okay, this is how that works. Because I'd work on stuff I didn't have a clue on. But I knew the basic operations of it. This is how it's supposed to work. So it has a different part. So it has a different widget. It's still the same thing. So I had to train my mind to be open-minded. But then when we had problems like zoning systems, I've never worked on a zoning system before. And these big homes in Colorado needed zone systems. And so Ted, he knew how to do them. And I remember the first time he taught me a zoning system, we went through it, we're looking at the instructions, he goes, and you should place them like this. And he gave me the reasons and everything. And it just stuck with me. Mm-hmm. And then after that, he goes, I don't want to do it, just do it. Read the damn instructions. Give me a call if you need me to. And my pride was I didn't want to call it. I didn't have to. But I also knew I couldn't spend 4 hours out there to do a 1-hour job.
Right.
Because I'm getting paid by the hour. And that was my second business lesson. He taught me several things. Taught me never to get into new construction. He taught me the reason for that and why. I listened to him on that, and he proved to be right down the road. But he would teach me it's all about the people. Mm-hmm. That, you had to fix the problem. And when these people, I found that if you were sincere with them and you worked hard for these people, even if you didn't fix it the first time, they were patient with you. And as long as you didn't lie to them, you'd learn it. And you could, and then they're like, they trusted you. And when I saw people start trusting me, I'm like, wow, I really like this. You know, people are trusting me, and it's my job to get this done. And so, and when I was in the military, I learned some, leadership skills and stuff like that.
They say a lot of businesses are dealing with people. That's like the hardest part for a lot of people is dealing with all the different individuals.
It is, especially our industry.
Were you so this whole time you're learning, working, and starting to go out on your own on your own jobs? Were you like getting ready to move to Arizona? Were you saving? Did you have a plan to buy a home? Or like
Nope.
what was your goal or
My
plan?
goal was to pay my bills and survive. Okay. I did. I wasn't making much money. I was getting paid $10 an hour, 30 hours a week. I made a deal with Ted. He was bouncing my paychecks every week. And every Friday, he'd give me a paycheck. I'd work those whatever hours, and then he'd take off to the mountains. I wouldn't see him till Monday. I'd go to the bank. Oh, he doesn't have enough funds in there. He has to transfer some funds. So I'd have to wait till Monday. So I don't believe that. I think if you work, your boss says you're going to pay you, you get paid, right?
Right.
So I had to sit down with him. I said, Ted, listen, first of all, you need me all the time. I said, I'm getting people offering me jobs in these supply houses, knowing that they've seen me now for a while and they want me to work with them. I said, I don't want to work with them. I want to work with you because I'm learning from you. It was fitting into my stuff pretty easily.
Yeah, it's like that give and take where you take a little less, but you're able to learn more.
That is
Like the
correct.
knowledge is like you're basically paying for your on-site knowledge information from somebody who's done it for a long time.
That's right. I knew I had to learn, and I was willing to pay for it. So I told him, I said, you'll pay me 30 hours minimum, even if I work 20. But if I work 50 because I'm learning to do something, you still pay me 30. And he goes, what? And I go, yeah, you'll pay me a minimum of 30 hours. And you will not bounce a check on me. You will make sure that I get my money every Friday because I didn't have a big budget to live off of. I was living now with my girlfriend, which is now my wife, and she already owned her home. So I was just paying my truck payment, my food, and any other expenses I had.
Well, you needed it. Couldn't be late. Like, gotta eat, gotta pay that payment.
That's right.
Yeah.
So I did that, and then I'd hustle other jobs anywhere I could. And so that worked out fine. And he couldn't believe that I was willing to do that.
And he got on top of it. Checks started cashing when they were supposed to.
Then he started trusting me. And then he started explaining to me how to market, this is what I do. This is the system I'm using. And it was called Airtime 500. I read up on it, and the guy that started Airtime 500, he started several groups like Ben Franklin, Plumbing, Airtime 500, or what's the other one? Airtime. But there's several. It's a good system, and it works. And every time Ted would embrace that, he would get more work. And so it was time for me to start thinking about the future. Okay, if I'm moving down to Arizona, how am I going to do that? So
When did you know? Like, okay, I need to start thinking about Arizona now?
it was probably about 2 months after I got out of school, thinking, you know what, I'm doing this. This is actually working. Me and my wife had some long conversations. My business partner was a very intelligent but quirky gentleman, and he can be very hard to deal with. And I knew this. I knew who he was, and I had to explain that to my wife. And my wife goes, okay, so tell me what will happen if you fail. If we go to Arizona and we fail. I said, well, first of all, I'm learning my trade, so I'll continue to learn my trade. That's no big deal. I'll hopefully learn how not to do it, and I go in the long run, I guess not much if I don't put myself in too much debt. And she goes, okay, so why don't you want to take a chance? And I said, well, it might not work. He goes, hell yeah, it might not work. I was, but you're never going to lose. You're going to learn from it, right? What would you do if it failed down there? I go, well, I guess I'll move back here to Colorado and get a job with all these companies that are here. I said, I know I can get a job. She goes, so you're really not taking that big of a chance. You'd be the fool not to do it.
That's what you needed, was that little push from someone that you love, that supported you, that was like, hey, I'm going to be there with you. We're going to be good. Whatever the worst case scenario, we're going to be all right. Take the chance. Yeah.
She was going to move out there, and she was going to, she worked for Diamond Shamrock Corporation, which they had them out here. She was an auditor for them. She'd been there for about 15, 17 years. And they had job openings out here, but she'd have to get back into a store and open up a new store or something and for them. But she had a job.
Is AirServe the company that you started out here?
Mm-mm.
So
No, AirServe was a franchise that we found 4 years after we started the business. I started a business called High Quality Incorporated. We did appliances and we did HVAC. I did the HVAC. He did the appliances. Okay. I learned how to do installs and how to install equipment, and I was continuing to learn how to do service. That was a never-ending process. He landed 5 contracts for us through home warranties. So the moment I moved out here, I put myself in debt of about $2,000. Well, I put myself in a lot of debt. Bottom line.
all for the company?
All for the company.
Mm-hmm.
I owned 50% of the company, and he owned 50% of the company. He bought a brand new vehicle. I bought a brand new vehicle. The loans were out on my name for my vehicle, and the same with his. When we did the company, we put a business plan together. We started a board of advisors of 5 executives, 2 of them from Sears and Roebuck. One of them from was my father. He owned a bank and a couple of big businesses. So he was an executive. He owned his CEO and stuff. My buddy's friend, our father, was a vice president at Sears and Roebuck's, and his mom was a big executive at McDonald's, hamburgers. And so they were our board of advisors. And we would ask them, how do we do this stuff? And they'd advise us which direction, how we should be doing this. Don't put all your eggs in one basket, all this stuff. My buddy's father was the one that gave us really good advice on that. Don't put your eggs in one basket. And that came out later on in life to be a real big top saver for us. And he gave us a story about craftsmen. He was also in charge of buying stuff for Sears, and one of them was all the Craftsman tools. And there was a company that did nothing but all the Craftsman tools for him for years and years and years. Well, when they took that contract away from this gentleman, his whole empire crumbled.
This is before he...
Yeah, this is way before.
Okay.
And so he told us that story. He says, don't put your eggs in one basket, diversify.
Mm-hmm.
So we made sure we did that. We still did it with home warranties. I believed in 2 things. My father taught me customer service, and he didn't tell me, he didn't call it customer service. You know, you got to remember, he was from the South. He was a good old boy. He had the friend network. You look at somebody in the eye, tell them you're going to do it, you do it. You shake your hand. No matter if you lose, you got to be man enough to finish what you said. So that's what he taught me. And I embraced that. And I saw it work for him all his life. Didn't realize it until I was really looking into the stuff. I'm like, oh, that's what he meant. That's okay. I see. And it was stuff that he just did regularly.
That different perspective looking back on things, you know, when you're in the moment, you take it in, you're like, okay, then you look back and you're like, oh, and it just kind of clicks for you even further. Or what do they say? Reading a book with the mind, looking through like a golf ball size, like a mindset, you see X amount. And then later on you look through through a basketball size mindset and you see even more within the same information and the same knowledge that you didn't see
Different
before.
perspective.
Yeah.
I know. So that's how I started learning. So we started our business March 1st, 1998. And then April 1st, I tore my bicep off my forearm. Picking up an air conditioner, putting it in. And I knew something broke. I knew something happened because I've never felt that pain before. And I was a power lifter in the Marine Corps, and I'd lift a lot heavier weight. And I had seen guys tear their muscles up. And I'm like, ooh, I think I might have just tore my muscle. So I go over to urgent care, find this doctor. What was really cool was the urgent care doctor. I told him, I said, I just started a business. He goes, yeah, you just have a bruise. I said, I don't have a bruise.
Oh.
I said, there's a problem here, and I know there's a problem. And he looked at me and he goes, listen, I'm going to give you my doctor to go to. I just had my daughter over there. This guy is on top of it. He's really crusty, though, so you'll have to get used to that. I said, I don't care if you can do the job. And so he turned me on to this 80-year-old man, his doctor. Doctor said, yep, you tore your muscle off. He said, you got so much muscle there that it caught it, and that's why you didn't roll up on you.
So did the business go on hold at this point? It just had to keep going.
So we get that, and now I'm out, right? I can't go out to the field for 2 months. So I move into the office. We had a little office. This office was as big as this room, okay? One desk in there. So my buddy had to go out in the field to do air conditioning and the appliances. So I'd get into work early in the morning, do all the paperwork, get all the jobs in order, do whatever it took to help the way I could. Okay. Also learning at the same time. I didn't realize how much there was about all that. So I was learning all of that. And boom, get my arm fixed. My doctor goes, okay, you're ready to go. I go, what about physical therapy? He goes, be careful. He goes, you got so much physical work, you're not gonna need physical therapy. So I went out, I grabbed the biggest ladder I could off my truck, picked it up, put it down, picked it up, threw it back up there. I'm ready to go.
Yeah, that's some crazy advice to hear. You're like, okay, physical therapy? He's like, you're good. You'll be all right. You get out there and make it happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's gotta be a little scary, right?
It was very scary.
Yeah.
And so.
And that was kind of a blessing, you getting hurt in a way, because you had to go and learn all the paperwork, which you had probably not wanted to do.
I didn't.
Or look at that stuff, and it's like the universe having you learn more about your business from looking at the paperwork side.
Yeah.
And you had to. Yeah.
So it was really an eye-opener. So I go out, my wife comes to visit. She's still in Colorado. You got to remember, this is only the first couple of months, and she wanted to come out for my opera. I said, no, you got to work, I got to work. Listen, I've had worse things happen to me. Don't worry about this. I'm fine. So she was chomping at the bit to see me and stuff. She comes out. Me and my partner are back at work, right? We're both doing service calls. That was like on a Thursday. Monday morning, my wife's riding with me. I get a call from my buddy. A lady blew a red light at 70 miles an hour and hit him.
In the work truck, too.
In the work truck.
Damn.
And we have a big Isuzu NPR. He had a big Isuzu NPR. And it smashed the whole side of this truck. And we're just like, wow. He goes to the hospital. Hospital goes, well, you have to sign off because if your insurance or it doesn't get paid, you have to pay. He goes, fuck you, I'm not paying anything, man. It's not my fault. So we walked out of the hospital. And then I said, okay. And now we're looking at this truck. Well, we were smart enough to have insurance. We were smart enough to get a replacement truck until that truck got fixed, because it was a brand new truck. The truck was only 2 months old. And the insurance company decided, we're going to fix it. Oh, what do you mean you're going to fix it? The side of this truck, this bed of this truck needs to be replaced. Yeah, we'll cut it out and you can drive it around till we can't drive a truck like that around. So we got this pickup truck. They gave us a pickup truck. We didn't read the fine print. Another life lesson. So we looked at it and they said, well, yeah, it's a pickup truck. We started putting all his tools and all his parts in there. We got about an hour later, we realized this is never going to work for us. So we had to take everything out, put a little stuff in there. So we've been, during this whole time, we've also been going out to the banks and giving them our business plan and showing them our business plan. And they were taking that and just tossing them. No, well, we can give you $20,000.
Because you guys are trying to expand, grow, get more
Yeah,
equipment.
we wanted to grow our business right away.
You get more employees, like the whole thing.
Yeah, and so we're like, oh fuck, nobody was listening to us. Banks kept, well, we'll give you 20 grand, we'll give you that 20 grand. We got that on our credit card. We don't want that. And so I called my father. I go, hey, Dad, this good old boy network for banking and all that you told us about isn't working down here. I said, we've been doing this, this, and this. He goes, I expected that. I go, what? I said, you have to work it. But you will find somebody if you keep working it. So we're sitting there going, oh, man, what are we going to do? Well, we're down a truck. I've been gone 2 months out of this deal, and we're in the middle of summertime, and I'm just like, what are we doing? So I looked at my partner. I said, I guess the best time to get out of this venture would be right now. If we're not, should we dissolve the business? Looked at me, he goes, we're going to have rough times. If we can't handle our rough times up front, then we shouldn't even be in business to begin with. I said, okay. I just wanted to make sure because I'm willing to keep going. I was living out of his house. I couldn't even afford an apartment yet. My wife wasn't here, so I'm living out of his house. And now 4 or 5 months, so we keep looking. We find a bank, M&I Bank, and they said, we'll give you a loan for a new truck. Really? He goes, but your wives have to co-sign. Our wives did not want to co-sign. And we're like, we're unhappy about that. But they did. They did it. And we're like, all right, so we got another truck. Well, now we have 3 truck payments and 2 guys working. And we don't know what the hell is going to happen. And my partner read the thing in here and says, oh, the insurance says they'll keep making our other truck payment until we approve that truck from repairs. Until then, they'll keep paying it. And I said, okay. A year and a half, that truck was in the body shop. Every time they call us every month or two, well, after about 6 months, they started calling us. Okay, the truck's ready. I'd go over there, inspect it. And I grew up my stepfather was a mechanic and worked and restored antique cars and stuff for a living. And I knew how to look at certain things that were fudged. Oh, no, that's not right. That's not right. Nah. All right. And I wouldn't answer their phone call for another month or so. And then I'd go back. And so for about a year and a half, that went on. But the insurance company kept paying that truck payment.
Thank God, yeah.
Yeah.
That would have been 3 trucks.
So now, it's a year and a half, 2 years, we're moving on. We're doing good. Now we have to hire employees. So
Because you're growing, more customers, more jobs.
home warranties, and we're learning how to run this business. My wife now had been out here, had moved out. We moved in. I bought a house and stuff. After my wife moved here, that March. So by November, December, I was looking at houses.
Business is going good then.
Yeah.
Business is going good.
I was only paying myself $17 an hour, 40-hour work week. My first life lesson. Don't ever look at the clock when you own your own business. I knew right away that first 2 or 3 weeks, Bill, you're just going to upset yourself. And you can't afford to pay yourself 70 hours a week. So I just did that. I kept that up for 5 years. I wouldn't give myself a raise or anything until I felt I could. Until I could really grow, because every time we did good enough, I hired people. And so that money went into new trucks, new employees, tools, whatever it took.
And you're still doing jobs yourself. You're
I'm
still
still
showing
out
up.
there. I'm doing the installs myself because I knew how to do installs. My partner didn't know how to do installs. So I'm up in the attic putting a new unit by myself. Outside, I'm doing this all by myself because I did that in Colorado. So I said, well, what's the difference there? So I'm working in basements in Colorado. I'm working in attics up in Arizona. And then I'd go on service calls after I'm done because I still had service costs. Nobody else was going to run them. My wife was helping me at night. I'd get home maybe about 8 or 9 o'clock at night. Well, I have all these faxes coming in from the home warranties of customers that need to be taken care of. And our contract says you have to contact these people in this amount of time. You have to set an appointment by this amount of time. So I was learning how to make my own spreadsheets on paper and write my own calendars. So I'd call all these customers at night, say, okay, I'll be out here. This is it. This blah, 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 blah. Learning how to deal with customers, learning how to do all this stuff.
You're working day and night though.
Oh yeah.
You're waking up and
7
then
days a week.
and then add it till nighttime.
Yeah,
till
I
you go to
didn't take
bed.
my first vacation for 5 years. So I did that. I tried to take Sundays off as best as I could, but only after the first year. But I'd work all the time. That's just how it was.
Seems like the business is steadily rising for you.
was.
Everything's going great. Was there any time that it fell off,
Oh, yeah.
went down,
Oh,
or
yeah, we almost lost
came
it.
apart?
We almost lost it all. I had to start all over again.
How do you go from, all right, the successful business you have, you're in Arizona, things are going great, you're buying a home now, you're with your wife out here, you're hiring employees, like everything seems like it's just running smooth, and you go from that to, okay, I'm gonna, franchise, or I'm gonna go a different direction. Like, how do you make that leap or that jump?
That's a great question, because we knew we needed a system. We put a system together, but I'm watching my big competition out. How are they doing it? What are they doing? How come we're working so hard? And I also knew home warranties, we were never going to get rich off of. We're going to run us into the ground. And I'm like, oh man, we got to find a system. We got to find a way. Well, I'd go to seminars and everything I could, because then you didn't have all these webinars, so I went to seminars. I went to Build Your Business. I was a Lennox dealer, so they show you how to build your business, and they'd have classes.
You're probably driving hours for these things too, or
Yeah.
flying.
I'd go to other states sometimes.
Yeah, flying.
It'd be a weekend thing or something. But I'd do it, and I'd learn and take pieces away. And I learned, and I also was going through learning to get my master heat pump certification, get my gas certification. So I'm going for classes for all that to get all this stuff too at the same time, learning my skill, learning my job, how to be a better service tech. Then I started learning customer service. I already had an idea how I'd like to be treated. Well, then I'm seeing these courses, and so I'm taking these courses and how to deal with your customers, how to do all this stuff. And I'm like, oh, okay. Marketing, right? Don't know anything about marketing. We put in the yellow pages. Since we had contracts for home warranties, we didn't have to really do a lot of outside marketing because we were getting those jobs no matter what. Then I'm looking, how am I going to make more money on what I'm doing? So I started talking to homeowners about new units and stuff. I go, I started learning the negatives on the home warranties, how it was affecting homeowners. And I'd see their frustration, and then I'd get frustrated. And they'd get frustrated at me, and I was like, it's not me. This is your home warranties contract. I'm just the guy coming out to fix your stuff. So I see in the negative on that. I said, how can I make that a positive for me? So I was learning how to talk to these people, how to be positive with them and not tell them, yeah, you're a freaking idiot for taking this contract on. Here, but buy a new air conditioner from me. That's not a good approach, right?
Yeah. So you're learning market. You're like, you're like, I'm getting paid good and things are going well, but I want to really blow this stuff up, because if I'm comparing myself to these other companies, we're not doing that. And why are we doing that? You start going to these expos, learning about marketing, and then something clicks, like, wait a minute, okay, I can market while I'm there at these homes, talking about a bad warranty that they have or a bad system they have. And so I got to somehow, I don't know if upsell is the right word, but I got to somehow, upsell and get them along this business trail, or market whatever else I can give them in order to expand that business with the people I already have, and marketing your business in general instead of just the yellow pages.
That's right. And Ted, the first guy that taught me anything, a lot of his stuff was coming back in my head. One of the things he told me, he goes, you need to get maintenance agreements. You have to have customers. Well, my partner felt because we were doing 2,000 service calls a year easily. All right. And he goes, yeah, we have customers. I said, they're not our customers. Well, what do you mean? I said, no. If the home warranty fires our fucking ass, these people aren't going to call us. How are we going to make them call us? So I said, we need to sell maintenance agreements. Those are worthless and stuff. Well, I didn't believe they were worthless. So I put a maintenance agreement together and I started selling those I said, you know, a lot of times this is broken because you're not doing any maintenance. Well, the home warranty doesn't. Yeah, you're right. The home warranty won't pay for it because now you didn't maintain it. I said, hey, why don't you do this? Well, those seminars I'm going to, and they're talking about maintenances. They're talking about all this. And, well, how do you make maintenance agreements? So I learned that. Oh, I can put this together myself and put this in and price your stuff right, you know? So I was learning that, and I'm putting that together, and my partner wasn't too, he didn't believe in it, right? I did. Well, all of a sudden, I'm converting like 20%. 30% of my customers are now contracted with me. I have like 300 or 400 contracts. And now I have to go out and do regular maintenance. Well, the first time I started doing that, I realized, well, I'm not making any money doing this. How can I make money doing this? So I reread the contracts for all the home warranties, my obligation and what the home warranties obligations to homeowners are. And it always came back to say, if it's not working, then we'll fix it. So then I'm going to more classes and realizing the factory, I take factory tours too, Lennox, Train, Carrier, and they tell us all this is how this stuff is supposed to be working. I'm going, it doesn't work. It doesn't work to factory specs. It needs to be fixed. So I would go to the homeowners for my maintenance and I'd find a bad run cap that was still working because their philosophy was, unless it's broken, we're not going to fix it. That means it's not working. So I tell my homeowners, I said, listen, I have found 3 things. This is what's going to happen. They're going to continue to run it till we hit our first hot day and they're going to stop working. I said, but if you call in the home warranty right now, let them know you're getting maintenance done for me, get a work order from me, I can fix this right now and it'll only cost you an additional $50 because that's your, and at the beginning I used to waive that for him just so I could get this work. So I came up with a system.
And then you save them from having a week or 2 weeks in the summer and you're burning up and you just, just hot. You're really saving them like convenience for them.
And then all of a sudden, the homeowners were liking me more. And I'm making money doing this. And I'm still getting my home warranties. While now, we're growing. Now I had 2 service techs out of school that I was teaching. At the same time, I'd be out in the field and I'd walk them through everything. I'd go out with them. I was teaching them how to do installs, to help me do installs, and all that. And then my buddy, he got 2 service techs for his appliance side, and he's doing the same thing. Well, that's when I found out my partner had no customer service skills or how to be an employer. He would talk to you, and then that was his problem. He was so intelligent, he talked down at you constantly. Didn't matter if you were a homeowner or his technician. And I'd listen to him talk to customers that weren't happy with the service and his response. So I had to stop him right away. I said, you know what? I'll take care of all customer complaints. We can take care of this. Okay, all right. And then I saw him, how he was treating his techs. And I was having my techs and I was having my morning meetings. And I had to tell him, I said, you can't talk to those people like that. And when he told me that, why not? I pay them. I go, you're going to hurt their feelings. He goes, now I have to worry about their feelings? I said, yes. As a matter of fact, you're not doing company meetings anymore. I'll do the tech meetings. I'll do all that. So I took care of that for the HVAC side and the appliance side. And I did the training for these guys. All right. You'd be surprised how much appliances are pretty similar to low temp and stuff like that. And I'm like, so I took over all that in customer service. Still at night, getting home at 9 o'clock at night, taking all these faxes in, scheduling everything. Now I've got all these work orders I have to process so I can get paid on.
So this is where you start thinking of a better system for yourself in order to
We have
just
to hire an inside
kind of
person.
pull yourself to get your time back, basically, to have family time, to experience life and not just be a workhorse 24/7.
Yeah, but it didn't give me any more family time because I hired my wife. She was working part-time for me
Yeah.
at night. She was helping me organize all this. Her Diamond Shamrock wasn't going the way she wanted to, and we needed a dispatcher. And I had taken some dispatching classes on how to dispatch your technician because I'm dispatching them too while I'm out on service calls.
Doing everything.
I'd go out on service call, get done with my service call, drive down the street, park my car, return all the phone calls that were coming at me before then, getting my schedule returning, making sure the texts were where they are. Oh, you got a call. Here, let me get you out there and do all this. So I was doing all that. So I hired my wife, but I'm going to teach you to be a dispatcher. So now I didn't have to do all that on the truck. She took that over and she embraced that. And I was training her to do all that. And we're learning at the same time. And we made this huge map of the city, and it was all magnetic. And we'd have all these little things where vehicles were, because none of that was automatic like it is now. So we were doing all that, scheduling 5 days out in advance, recalls. If we had any recalls, you have to do those that day and still do your 5, 6 service calls that day. So you never stopped. It never went away. Oh, you didn't get it all done. You're working Sunday. You know?
I feel like the fact that you've done basically every single position of the job or of the company, like I feel like people could be comfortable coming to you because you know it inside and out. You're not just answering a call, or you're not just a service guy. Like you know every part of the business.
I did.
I mean, obviously it's probably helped you with like air serve now, but like what's your main thing with air serve now? I know you're utilizing all the information knowledge you have, but where have you kind of situated yourself in air serve is like, okay, this is what I'm focused on.
I'm focusing. I've told myself, Bill, you got to work on the marketing. That's the most important part. I have people that can dispatch people. I have people that know how to call customers and take care of a problem. I have people that can be very customer friendly and take care of business. I have technical people that can help train techs. So I had to think about that. Well, what's the easiest for me? Get out in the frickin' truck and keep fixing things. That's the easiest. And I said, you can't do that. It won't grow your business.